So before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. Here where I am this morning, I'm on the land of the Duwamish Nation in Kirkland, Washington, in the US. But I know where many of you are, you're on the land of other nations. Always, but especially during this difficult time, let us remember our connection to our sisters and brothers in these nations, and pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. Good morning, friends. So good to see you all. Let us sing. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. So good to see everybody. So I have just a few announcements. The Living Interfaith Church, our sister congregation, will be gathering next Saturday, June 26th at 10:30 Pacific Standard Time. So they meet just a half an hour later than we do on the weeks we don't meet. They're going to be celebrating World Humanist Day, and our good friend Steve Crawford is going to be speaking there again. We got lots of great feedback last week from Steve. So it's wonderful. So if anyone would like to hear him speak more about spiritual humanism next week, just let me know and I can get you the Zoom link for the service. Also, our friends from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints work together every year to gather as much food as they can across BC for the annual Thanksgiving food drive. All the food goes towards food banks all over the province. This year, the collection day is on Saturday, September 25th. And for our American friends, that's because Canadian Thanksgiving is about 5 weeks earlier than US Thanksgiving. So we collect it in September, so it'll be ready in time for the October Thanksgiving. If you and or your faith community or anyone you know is interested in helping collect food for that, I can put the link in the chat. And I hope that those of us here at the sanctuary will do that. I'm so impressed by the service projects that they do. And I know they collect so much food every year for this. So if we could contribute towards that as well, I think it'd be great. But you can read more about it on their website there. So I think that's all I have this morning. Not a lot is happening during the summertime. Does anybody else have any other announcements or anything to share with the group? Okay, great. Let's just come into silence for a moment. The sun is high above us, shining down upon the land and sea, making things grow and bloom. Great and powerful sun, we honor you this day and thank you for your gifts. Ra, Helios, Sol Invictus, Aten, Sparag, You're known by many names. You're the light over the crops, the heat that warms the earth, the hope that springs eternal, the bringer of life. We welcome you and we honor you this day, celebrating your light as we begin our journey once more into the darkness. Flame of fire, spark of the universe that warmed our ancestral hearth, ancient of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home. Now, if you'll join me in a passing of the peace, can unmute yourselves and say something like peace be with you as well. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Peace, everyone. Good morning.
Peace be with you.
Peace to all.
Assalamu alaikum.
Peace be with you.
Peace, everyone.
Peace be with
Peace
you.
be with you as well.
Peace be with you.
Peace be with you.
Blessings, one and all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And now let us sing.
Song that Mary suggested. It's a classic piece by Canadian singer-songwriter Raffi, environmental activist, children's songwriter.
Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, hiding behind the tree. These your children are asking you to please come out so we can play with you. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me.
Here's the chorus.
Shine down on me, shine, shine, shine.
And again.
Shine down on me, shine, shine, shine. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, hiding behind the tree. These your children are asking you to please come out so we can play with you. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me.
Shine, shine.
Shine down on me. Shine, shine, shine. Shine down on me. Shine, shine, shine. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, hiding behind a tree. These your children are asking you to please come out so we can play with you. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on, please shine down on, please shine down on me.
Oh, how fun was that? That was great. Thank you so much. That was so awesome. What a great suggestion, Mary. And now if you'll join me in our joint affirmation. We come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here. Wonderful. Thank you. So now is when we usually pray in our own homes and in our own ways for anything that particularly calls to us at this time. As always, there are many, many things that deserve our prayers. I think given the recent hate crime in Ontario, that praying for loving kindness and solidarity in the face of hatred would be especially important. But please feel free to pray for whatever calls to you today. And I'll just put myself on silent for a few moments. Thank you. Thank you. Now let us sing.
Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire, dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire, we will kindle the fire. Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire, dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire, we will kindle the fire. Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire, dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire, we will kindle the fire. Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. Spirits of fire, come to us, we will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire, dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire, we will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire, we will kindle the fire.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As you know, this is when I say I'd usually pass around a basket, but in lieu of that, I'm going to put our donation page in the chat. Many of you are so generous already and donate to help keep this going. So thank you so much for your generosity and all your support. And I just love our community so much. Also, I know Stephen isn't here, but I can't forget that if you do have a few extra dollars, Doctors Without Borders can always use the assistance. They do such important work around the world. So they're also they could also use some support. And then are there any other groups that you want to put, either let us know now or put in the chat, that could also use some financial or on the ground support right now at this time? Okay, well, feel free to share them later if you'd like. Thank you. Now let us sing.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Archpriestess Mary Malinski. She runs the Aquarian Tabernacle Church of Canada, a Wiccan community in Courtenay, BC on the island. So Mary, thanks so much for joining us. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for inviting me. I do have a question before I start. I don't know how much all of you know about Wicca. Like, do I start there or just jump into Summer Solstice?
You know, we celebrate Wiccan holidays twice a year. So some of us know some, but I don't know. I think there are some folks who don't come very often. So maybe like a very brief thing, and then the Summer Solstice. Thank you so much.
So in Wicca, we honor the cycles of nature. So we worship, we come together for ritual at the Sabbats, which are the cycles of the sun. So the solstices and the equinoxes and the cross-quarter days in between. And we also honor the cycles of the moon. So we often gather publicly for full moon rituals. And then in our group, we gather just as our initiates for new moon rituals as well. So we're working to be in tune with the cycles of nature, and through that we also honor both the masculine and feminine and beyond faces of the divine. So God and Goddess are an integral part of our worship, whether they're named from a specific pantheon or just honored as God and Goddess. So that's my little tidbit about Wicca. So we are here to celebrate the summer solstice. And the summer solstice is one of the Sabbats, the solar festivals that make up the 8 festivals that are the wheel of the year. And the summer solstice is actually considered to be one of the lesser Sabbats. In ancient times, the ones that were celebrated, or we have more evidence of being celebrated, are the cross-quarter days. So Beltane, my brain. Beltane and Samhain and Imbolc and Lammas or Lunasa. So February 1st, May 1st, August 1st, and October 31st, November 1st. Those were the greater Sabbats. And then the solstices and the equinoxes were celebrated or added a bit later to that wheel. Of course, midsummer, the summer solstice was made very popular and famous by William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. As a solar festival, there's very much a tie to bonfires, lighting bonfires, sacred fires, are always good at this time of year. And this particular time of year, possibly partly due to Shakespeare's influence, is very connected to the fae or the fairy realms. So a lot of people decide to work with fairies at this time of year. So if you wanted to make an offering to the fairies, it might be a good idea to leave out a dish of milk and honey as an offering. Prior to Midsummer Night's Dream, fairies were often thought to be baneful creatures. That, you know, they were mischief makers. But Midsummer Night's Dream kind of turned them into, they could be playful and helpful. And so I don't work with the fairy realm a whole lot. However, I do know that, you know, they can go either way. And so by making an offering of milk and honey or putting out some butter, these are things that can, you know, turn them to your favor and have them cause less mischief in your home. So sacred fire at this time is an important thing. Another form of, you know, elemental creature, because this is the season of fire, we're starting this astrological season of fire here with the solstice, is the jinn, the genies. And they are, you know, they are one of the things that we sometimes do is make wishes. So if we have something that we wish for, we light a fire, whether it's a, you know, a fire at the beach or in a fire pit or even just a little barbecue, and we offer lavender to the fire and make wishes to the genies. Now, it has to be something that is only for you. You can only wish for something for yourself. You cannot wish for something for others. The genies will not grant wishes if you wish for something for other people. So it has to be something you wish for yourself. And of course, as always, you have to be careful what you wish for, because they will find all the little loopholes in your language and, you know, bring that wish about in ways that you may or may not have intended or expected. Another thing that the fires were used for was for blessing of the crops. So, you know, in ancient times, the smoke was thought to cleanse any diseases. So smoke cleansing is also a really good thing to do at this time of year for yourself, you know, for your garden. You can do that with incense, with cedar, you know, whatever wood you may have that will smoke and cleanse your gardens and your body. That is also a good thing to do at this time. If you have some dried rosemary, even rosemary is a really good cleanser, both physically and mentally, right? It stimulates your mind. And so it's a really good herb to use at this time as well. Also, because it has a lot of fiery qualities, right? There's that pungent aroma that it has. As with most fire festivals, there's an honoring of the water as well. And I know that droughts have begun in many parts of the continent. And so it is a good time to make an offering, whether it's just a crystal that you offer to a local stream or the ocean or a river, something to honor the water and it's part of the cycle, inviting rain to come, to also bless the crops, right? Because of course, this is the time, the make or break time for a lot of crops. They're well on their way to fruit, but they're not there yet. And so too much rain or too little rain, too much sun, too little sun could affect the harvest. And we want to ensure a good harvest. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? flowers are also
I
a
do.
wonderful. Yeah,
I have a question. Okay.
yeah.
Now the Wicca ceremony, the thing that I think of the most is there's in some series, I forget the name of it. Some of you have seen it. It's about this woman goes back in time, and the introduction are these women who are dressed in white and they're dancing around the fire.
Under.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. And I just love that. I just think it's so wonderful. Can you talk to me, us about that celebration or that ritual? Do you know anything about that particular ritual?
So I don't know necessarily that is a
Wicca thing?
Wiccan ritual specifically, but it is definitely a pagan celebration, and dancing around the fire, right? The summer solstice is the height of the sun's power, right? It's the longest day and the shortest night. So as many of you probably feel, this is a time of play, right? This is a time of getting outside, of getting together with people when we're able. But yes, building the fire, being able to sing and dance and raise that energy, because of course singing and dancing are both ways of raising power and raising energy. And we honor, we celebrate all of the good things that have happened so far, right? As we did here in the Sharing Hearts, celebrating our joys. But really it's a time, the hard work of planting is over at this time, right? So coming together in celebration partly is to bless the land, right? That the work that we've put in will grow to fruition. The hard work of planting is done. We've kind of got this reprieve until it's time to harvest. So it's a time of joy, of play, right? I often think of that song, I don't remember who the singer is, but I don't want to work. I want to bang on the drum all day, right? That's very much the energy of the summer solstice of like, I want to let go. I want to relax. I want to have fun. And so that, building the fires was partly to bless the crops, to cleanse them, using the smoke to cleanse them of any diseases. So you'd build bonfires at the edges of the fields, or sometimes you'd take a torch and run between the rows of crops, again, to spread the smoke blessing to them, to cleanse them of any diseases. Yeah, and because it was the shortest night, right? This is, from here we start to move towards the darkness. So we want to celebrate that, that light, right? Yeah. Also, the other thing, yes, I forgot about the Oak King and the Holly King. So one of the myths of the cycle of the year is the myth of the Oak King and the Holly King. And from Yule to Midsummer, the Oak King reigns. And then at Midsummer they battle and the Holly King wins. And the Holly King rules from Midsummer to Yule, where they battle again, and the Oak King wins. Now the Oak King is very much, the young god, the youthful energy, the one who sows his oats in the cycle of the goddess. He's the one who impregnates the goddess, who is full in pregnancy at this time of the year. And so he's the sow your wild oats. The Oak King is more of the sow your wild oats, the youthful energy, that growing, the waxing energy. And the Holly King is more the father figure. He's the waning energy. We know him at Yule as Santa Claus, right? That is the Holly King. And so he's that more benevolent, take care of the community. And so the summer solstice also kind of marks a shift in the year of selfishness, personal involvement, to looking out at the broader community, of taking care of those around us. And I think that it's really interesting that Father's Day always falls at this time of the year as well, because the Oak King is, or the Holly King is much more of that father figure than the youthful, energetic warrior, right? So, yeah.
I have a question. How does your Wiccan practice, faith, manifest itself as you go through your life and interact with people, just in general?
Well, one of the blessings that we always do at the beginning of our rituals is "Thou art God, Thou art Goddess." So acknowledging, recognizing the divine in other people. And I think that's probably one of the biggest ways. I do have little altars. I have different gods and goddesses that have called to me that in different times in my life that I work with. So I have altars to some of them around my home. And, you know, part of my morning wake up, not every day, but quite often, is to make an offering to one or more of these gods, give gratitude, give thanks. For me personally, part of my practice is being reflective. You know, I said we work with the cycles of nature. So being reflective of what's going on in the world outside me, how is that showing up in my personal life, right? What are these lessons? How does it connect with the cycle of the year, whether it's the cycle of the sun or the cycle of the moon, right? That constant cycle of waxing and waning that both the sun and the moon go through. So looking for those periods of waxing and waning and in my own life and following that energy. Does that answer your question? Excellent, thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that, Mary, and it is kind of a hard question. One thing I think that people do is confuse the Wicca faith or religion with something that's evil. Okay?
Yes.
I think that is frequent. And
Yes.
Can you speak to that at all, about the difference and why it's not, it's erroneous to think it has something to do with Satanism or something like that, you know? Well,
kind of our standard answer to that is Satan is a Christian deity, not a Wiccan deity. Although patterned on some of like the horned god of Wicca or Pan from Greek mythology, right? That, well, those who followed Pan often lived out on the heaths away from cities and towns, and thus they were called the heathens, right? And they honored the cycles of nature very much. And they were some of the last people to convert to Christianity because their ways worked for them, and they were farther outside that sphere of influence of the churches in the main towns. But definitely that was one of the ways that the horned god or Pan was demonized, right? Is that they said that's what the devil looked like. So we don't work with the devil. We don't work with Satan. I mean, there are some that do, but often it's as, you know, the light bringer, right? Lucifer, light bringer. There's a whole tradition of Wicca, Strega from Italy, where they honor Diana and Lucifer as light bringer. And you can, if you want to learn more about that, you can read Aradia, the Gospel of the Witches. But like I said, Wicca is mostly about honoring both goddess and god, masculine and feminine faces of the divine. It's about honoring the cycles of nature and working with those cycles of nature. There's confusion about what is Wicca and witchcraft and paganism. paganism is kind of that broader umbrella that a lot of different traditions like Wicca and Druidry and Asatru and other things fall underneath. So it's a broader umbrella. Witchcraft is something that, you know, it's like the use of herbs, things that were taken away from people. The use of herbs, the knowledge of plants, yes, actual spells. In Wicca, though, our golden rule is, and it harm none, do what you will, right? So as long as it harms no one, you can work your will. Now, it's not do whatever you want, it's your will. What is really important to you? Because to will something requires a lot more concentration and energy. It's not just a whim or a fancy. And for me, magic is exactly the same as the process of manifestation, right? Everybody talks about the secret. That is magic, right? Magic is creating change in our outer world by focusing on our inner world, right? Changing our mind, changing our hearts, sometimes using things like candles and herbs and crystals to be the sympathetic energy, those things that resonate towards what we desire, to add to that will, but it's really our own will that makes the changes. Yeah.
Do you, how have you been able to reach people through this time of COVID? I know that I was able to do light work with a woman in San Francisco, and it was very powerful. Like, I was able to adjust my chakras, and then as well, meeting with an Indigenous mentor, I was able to feel and to have just the same experience as being with her, with them both, you know, in the same room. Do you find that you're able to connect with people as you need, as they need through this time? Yeah, it's amazing, hey?
It really is.
Okay.
And many, many years ago, I was very skeptical about online rituals.
Yeah.
Because like, we're not in each other's heart space.
Mm-hmm.
However, as part of our ritual in Wicca, we create our own sacred space. We create a space between the mundane world and the world of the gods. And we call that a tween space, right? The internet is a literal tween space, right? We are in
sacred
between.
circle.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so creating a sacred circle within on the internet is actually a lot easier than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
And we're definitely able to feel that energy. No, it's not the same as being in each other's actual heart space. However, it is still very effective.
I feel like the responsibility is greater when you leave the space. It's so profound that it's okay. Well, I can't just hold this. I need to be able to gift this as well. So thank you so much. This was beautiful.
Is there a worldwide Wiccan congregation, or is there like a world leader ahead of the congregation in the world? Is there a center for the Wiccan tradition somewhere?
No. Traditionally, Wiccan covens were small. To be part of a coven, you have to be initiated into the tradition. Different people have formed their own traditions, you know, not unlike the many forms of Protestantism, you know. So there's lots of traditions, and people who are drawn to Wicca are often, you know, people who have some disdain for organized religion or are on the fringes. We intersect with a lot of other fringe cultures. We are a very sex positive religion. It's a fertility religion in many ways. So very open and welcoming to the LGBTQ plus community, as well as, polyamory and kink. And there's a lot of intersection between a lot of those communities. But again, like I said, a lot of people, once we get organized into bigger groups, you have to have rules to follow. And so people who come to Wicca to get away from organized religion, once we start organizing into larger groups and having more rules to follow, they get frustrated and want to go back to doing their own thing. So there is no overarching body of Wicca. There are a few major organizations. The Aquarian Tabernacle Church is one of them. Covenant of the Goddess is another. The Corellian tradition is another, and Circle Sanctuary is another. Those are some of the bigger organizations, bigger groups. In North America, I can't speak necessarily to the rest of the world, but those are some of the bigger ones in North America. And I do know, because I have worked with some of them, that we are working to work together as opposed to being more separate, but there's still, I don't ever see one overarching body just because we're so independent.
Were you always Wiccan? Were you born into a Wiccan family, or how does one become Wiccan?
Well, I actually was raised Lutheran, and I was, baptized, had my communion, confirmation, taught Sunday school for a while. And then my introduction was through a book called The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley, which is a fantasy retelling of the legend of Arthur, but more from the feminine point of view. And I remember reading it and thinking, I want to go and live in the House of Maidens, and I want to learn about herbs and all of these priestess crafts. And then I thought, yeah, that'll never happen. And fast forward through university, and I got married and moved out to Vancouver and found another woman who was leading rituals. I didn't know it was Wiccan. They were just women's spiritual circles. When I moved to the island, I looked for something similar and there wasn't anything, but I got a lot of encouragement from people to start one. So I did. And eventually I found and was able to connect with the Aquarian Tabernacle Church and has some formal training. And so I learned a lot on my own, just from my own research, from books, from the fledgling internet at the time. And then much later was able to take some formal training and get some direction. And I value both. I really value, my own, the learning that I did for myself, but I also really value the formalized training that I received later. So,
This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary. I think everyone, we really enjoyed this and got to learn a lot. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
I just want to be mindful of time. So I know Bruce and Cheryl have one more song for us. Can do a closing prayer. Unless, would you like to do the closing prayer? You'd be welcome to if you'd like, but I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm happy to do it if you don't want to.
Okay.
Okay, should have asked ahead of time. Sorry about that. So yes, let's sing now, friends, and then we can close. And then if Mary wants to stay after, we can ask some more questions. So thank you.
We are circling together. We are singing our song. This is family. This is unity. This is celebration. This is sacred. We are spiraling together. Onward, inward, creature to creation. sacred. We are spinning, spinning all together. We are singing over the rainbow. This is harmony, this is community, this is celebration, this is sacred. We are circling, circling together. We are singing, singing the heart song. This is family, this is unity, this is celebration, this is sacred, this is sacred, this is sacred.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. Wonderful as always.
Well,
Friends,
someone did remind me of a clothing that we have. If you
brilliant. We'd love to hear from you.
Goddess of the moon and starry night, God of the fields and of the forests, thank you for being with us today. Shower blessings upon your children and over this land in which we live. May peace, love, joy, and wisdom be thy gifts to us. Hail and farewell. And thank each of you for your attention, your work, and your sacred service. May you be blessed with abundance, love, and joy. And may you get all of your work done with plenty of fun time to share. So mote it be.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Amen.